Hello everyone, this is TJ here from Mac Advisor UK. Today I've got a comparison for you of the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S. I've got the iPhone 5 here on the left in black and slate and the iPhone 5S in white and silver. I'm just going to do a series of tests between the two devices, and I don't read anything into it too much. Because you can run these tests at 10 different times and you probably get a slightly different set of results each time. But I'm just going to do a test here. I've not done this test before, so it'll be interesting to see how each phone fares in each test. And I'm going to start off with a simple startup test. So 3, 2, 1. And we see the 5S turns on quicker then. You'll notice that they've both got the matching wallpapers for the colour of their phone, something new in iOS 7. Something that surprised me, because never having a white phone, it was a bit strange seeing the white background when on the startup screen. I suspect the 5S is going to be quicker here because it does have the faster processor, the A7. So just give that another second. There we go. 5S is already turned on. I'm going to have to put my passcode in. That's the one annoying thing about the iPhone 5S. When you start up, you can't put your passcode in, because if you restart or turn the device off and back on, it won't let you use Touch ID. You have to put your passcode in. That's a bit annoying. But there we go, both on the home screen. I'm just going to run a Geekbench test here. It should take about 30 seconds to a minute for both devices. So here it's on the left, we've got the iPhone 5. They're both running iOS 7.0.2. Processor is an Apple A6 running at 1.3 GHz. This says it's an ARM processor. It doesn't class it as an A7 at 1.29 GHz, so they're roughly about the same, and then both the same amount of memory. So we'll go run processor benchmark on both of them. Now I suspect that the iPhone 5S will finish first, because the processor in it is supposed to be double the processing power and also double the graphics power of the iPhone 5, so Apple have claimed. So I expect the score will be about double and that it'll finish in about half the time, roughly speaking, but be interesting to see what it comes out with. I've not run these tests before, as I said. I've not seen any other Geekbench tests between the two phones as yet online, so I don't know what the score's likely to be, but we're about 31 seconds in. 33 seconds it took the 5S to get through, and we've got a single core score of 1418 and a multi-core score of 2566 on the iPhone 5S. Just waiting for the iPhone 5 to finish. It's still going. That's obviously taking a lot longer. So 52 seconds in and it's still not finished. This commentary is probably getting a bit boring whilst we're waiting for that to finish, but it just goes to show how much of an improvement in performance the 5S has got. You may not notice it in general usage, but when you're doing sort of processor intensive tasks, that's where it's going to shine. And we've got a single core score of 700 and a multi-core score of 1260, so about half that of the 5S, and obviously it did take almost twice as long to complete the test. That's just a simple Geekbench test there, just to sort of give you some performance of the two phones. I generally don't like things like benchmarking apps because they don't sort of tend to reflect real world performance, particularly when you're comparing it to other non-iPhones, but that's just sort of a benchmark test there, just to sort of show you the performance between the two devices. I'm just going to do a quick test opening some apps. So let me just see what apps we've got. Now all the apps have been closed on this phone, so if I just start up, we'll just go across the top here. So if I just start up BBC News, so they actually load up about the same, and then obviously it depends on the internet connection for each phone of how long it takes to load up the stories. Let's just go into Macash as well. Obviously seemed to be quicker on the 5S that time, and we'll go on to eBay on both, and that was about the same on both phones. And what else have we got on here? If I just go into YouTube on both phones, so generally about the same opening apps up. It's not really a processor intensive task to open up apps, so they can both handle that really well. I guess generally the performance will come down to games on the 5S mainly, or when developers rewrite their apps for 64-bit, you may see some overall performance increase in opening apps and just sort of generally running apps. But just for general everyday tasks, opening apps, surfing the web, sending email, and the usual things that most people do, you generally don't tend to notice a lot of performance difference between the two phones. Now if I just go into Safari, we'll just do a Safari test. It's just loading up the apple.com website on both of these. Now it's obviously going to be dependent on the internet connection for each phone. I'm just going to go into bookmarks. And I've got if I go into favourites, I've got the New York Times here. So I'm going to load the New York Times up on both phones because that's got lots of graphics and a big site to load in. So if I just tap that on both phones at the same time and load it up just to see which one loads it first. So it's loaded up on the iPhone 5, just a fraction of a second quicker. I'm just going to load up another website from my bookmarks. If I go into shopping perhaps, and we'll load up Amazon on both phones. We'll just see which loads it up first. So they're about the same on there. And what other site can I load up? Ooh, where's my bookmarks on that one? If I go back to my favourites and I'll go into stuff. And I'll go on to Apple Insider on both phones. And it's already loaded up on the 5S, it's just depending on the internet connection, I guess, but it's still waiting to load on the iPhone 5, taking an extraordinarily long amount of time on that one. But again, as I said, that will depend on each phone's internet connection, but no sort of real definite winner, no sort of definite increase in speed on the two phones, just for sort of general web browsing. I'm just going to do a quick test with a game. I've got Asphalt 8 on here, so you know that I play Asphalt 8. I've got the 5 at the bottom and the 5S at the top. I'm going to load up Asphalt 8 on both phones and we'll just see which opens up the first, and we'll just sort of load into the game and see which is the quickest. So I'm going to launch it on both phones at the same time, and we'll just see, you can just see there that the 5S has gone straight into the game. Touch the screen, loading into the game, should just take us to the main menu, loads up quicker on the 5S. So if I go into the career mode on both, which race are we going to go on? We'll go on this Alps race in the top right corner. So if I just press it at the same time on both phones, this is just going through the menu, so this is going to be pretty much the same. Next, I just need to choose a car here. So we'll go start race at exactly the same time on both phones. There we go. We should see the 5S load into the game quicker, at least from my experience. It seems to sort of load pretty quick. So you can see there that the iPhone 5S on the top has loaded in quicker, and it seems to be a lot further ahead. And there we go. You're already racing on the 5S, and then the 5 kicks in. So it is quicker. Obviously, this is probably not a very good example of a game to try because the game hasn't been optimized for 64-bit. Obviously, once the games are sort of optimized for the A7 in the 5S, then you'll obviously see a bigger boost in performance. But I've noticed in things like games that the graphics are better and smoother in games like Asphalt 8, and that they generally do tend to load quicker. Now lastly, I'm going to do a graphics test using GFX Bench. So if I just launch that on both phones, and I think there's a performance test on both of them. It's already marked. It's an T-Rex HD test. There is an Egypt one on there which you may be familiar with. This is a very popular benchmarking. I'm going to press start on both of them and it's going to run the graphics test. So you should generally see the 5S finish it quicker and just give a much smoother animation. So if I just hit start on both, 3, 2, 1, hit start on both, and this should run through the graphics test. It may take about a minute to run the graphics test. We'll just see which sort of gets through it the quickest. It's already started on the 5S. And you can see that the iPhone 5S is a lot smoother just starting off there than the 5 at the bottom, which seems to be stuttering a bit. I've actually run the test on the 5S when I was just checking out the benchmarking app, but I've not run it on the 5, so it's something new for me to see it's stuttering quite a bit. But you can just see that the frame rates are a lot smoother and it just plays a lot quicker and a lot better on the 5S at the top. So obviously if you're a gamer and you play heavy 3D games, again the 5S is obviously going to be a lot better. The 5S is always, this iPhone 5 has always been fine for me with gaming. I've never had any issues with it, particularly in comparison to my 3rd gen iPad. But just running this test now, you can just see that it does seem to not quite keep up with the frame rates, and it does seem to stutter a little bit. Obviously it's behind as well because it's got the slower graphics performance in the processor. The test is finished on the iPhone 5S, now finished on the iPhone 5. So if we just turn both phones back round, It's given us a score at the end of it. On the iPhone 5S, it's got 2029, and on the iPhone 5, we've got a score of 741, and it's got 13 frames per second on the iPhone 5 and 36 frames per second on the iPhone 5S. So you can read into that what you will, but obviously the graphics are far improved on the iPhone 5S. Obviously, once Apple brings the A7 or an A7X to the iPad, that will obviously be a big boost to gaming on the iPad as well, because I generally tend to game on the iPad, but you can obviously see there from that quick test that the graphics performance is better overall on the iPhone 5S. So that's a look at some quick tests that I've done there, just some general things that you would generally do on the phone and a couple of benchmarking tests. We've done a startup test. The iPhone 5S is obviously faster. Just going to shut both these devices down now and just see which shuts down quicker. I seem to recall when I'm comparing my iPhone 4 to my iPhone 5, the iPhone 4 actually shut down quicker. But we'll just slide these two off. If I can just get my fingers on both. There we go, and we'll just see which shuts down the quickest. I don't suppose it really matters, but just for the fun of it. They're both got that rotating circle on them. They both have the same apps launched and that on them, so it should be equally matched. I generally don't shut down my phone, so I don't really know how long it takes the 5S. Oh, there we go, both about the same shutting down. But that's a quick look anyway, just a simple test, just doing a few different things, running some benchmarks of the differences between the 5 and the 5S. Generally, the 5S is obviously better overall, twice as good at processor tasks, twice as good at graphics tasks. For general usage, you generally don't notice an increase in performance when you're just doing general things and using general apps through the phone. Obviously, when you're playing games and that sort of thing, that's when you're going to notice the improvements. And once developers sort of update their apps for 64-bit and sort of optimize them more for the A7 processor. But that's my comparison test anyway. If you've got any comments or questions, you can post those below, or feel free to send me an email. I will be doing some more videos on the iPhone 5S, maybe a gaming video. And I need to look at the camera and do a video on that of some kind, and then I'll probably do a review at some point, maybe towards the weekend. We'll see how we go. That's it for this video anyway. Don't forget to like it by giving it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.